Welcome to the Voiceless podcast. What up, Voiceless family? We're here for another episode. I'm your host, Meech, and anytime we're talking wrestling, we got the co-host who's down in Atlanta. We got John. Say what up to the people.
Yo, what's going on, world? How y'all doing?
Yes, sir. So this week, we're talking about Payback, and Payback came out of nowhere. It just came right after, I believe, SummerSlam, and we didn't even get to give our predictions for this one. But we're going to review Payback. We're going to talk about Roman Reigns turning heel and teaming up with Paul Heyman, and we're going to also talk about who is the most underrated wrestler in the WWE today. And then we're going to end off with two things the WWE needs to change in this current climate. But let us start off with a few trending topics. And I'm just going to get your take on a couple trending topics, John. And we're going to start off with this. We're going to start off with this right here. So this was just announced maybe a couple days ago. But guess what? Brock Lesnar is a free agent. Brock Lesnar is a free agent. So he's no longer under contract with the WWE. He can do whatever he wants. He can go to any wrestling promotion, even though I kind of doubt he'll ever do that. But he can make it seem like that to get a new contract. But what's your thoughts on Brock Lesnar being a free agent right now?
It sounds like a real Brock Lesnar thing to do, because it feels like after listening to him talk and talk about him and himself, it seems like he probably just doesn't want to wrestle this year around. He just wants to stay at home and live on his farm for a bit. And Brock Lesnar's kind of guy. He's a family man. On top of that, he's the kind of guy that doesn't like seeing his neighbors, so he likes his close circle of people to be very small. So it seems like Brock is just kind of tired of just being coming out once every couple months to do something. So
yeah.
I don't think he's going to AEW, and I don't even think he's going to be doing anything special. So goodbye, Brock. See you in a couple of years or a couple months.
Yeah, I actually think I think they're going to figure out the contract situation. I think Brock is he's going to end up getting another big contract, but with the WWE, and we're going to see him. I think we'll see him about time for WrestleMania next year. I think Brock would definitely be under contract. But if I was Brock, I would use it to my advantage. I'd be like, y'all don't have me under contract for me to get more money. I'm going to make it seem like I'm signing with AEW, like Randy Orton did, and be like, AEW could sign me. And then now WWE is going to be like, we got to give him more money. So he could use it to his advantage. But I definitely think Brock will be back in the WWE at some point this year. But if not this year, then next year for sure. I got one more trending topic for you, and this one is actually really interesting. So this is actually from a tweet, and it's a crazy idea, and it's from Randy Orton. But this tweet was put out, and I guess Randy Orton has a dream WrestleMania kind of retirement match for himself that he will want to be able to leave on top of. So I'm going to read this out to you. It says, Randy Orton says in 3 or 4 years, he wants to be tied on 16 world titles with John Cena, who would be heel at the time, and have Ric Flair in his corner. And they face off at WrestleMania to see who gets the record number 17 championships, and they both have to retire after. What's your thoughts on that creative plan? I thought that was crazy.
It'd be a cool storybook ending to two careers, but I doubt John would let it end that way, because I feel like John Cena's way of ending his career would be building someone up, and that's how I feel like it will go down. But I like the idea of it. But then again, I don't see Randy Orton retiring for at least about another 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. That's what he was saying. Like another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. But I definitely can see it coming down the pipeline. And this is how it ends. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody needs to have.
But I don't.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Somebody needs to. When Randy Orton does retire, somebody needs to put him in the creative writing team. Because to me, I just think that's super creative and super different. he said he wants John Cena to be heel at the time and Ric Flair in John Cena's corner. And now they both are competing for that 17 world championship win, and to break the record that Ric Flair has, and Ric Flair is in the corner, and they both have to retire after it. That's like really very, very creative and very like complex, which you don't really see in WWE today from storyline standpoint. And then of course, you know, everything that's surrounded around John Cena and Randy Orton's career, their entire career, all the matches they had. So to me, I think that would be amazing. It would just be shocking if it actually did happen, because first off, we haven't even seen John Cena heel. So that would be crazy just to see John Cena heel, let alone then facing Randy Orton. Yeah, that would be crazy. But I definitely would want to see that.
Mm-hmm. I would. It's just, it's like from my point of view, though, I wouldn't want to see it because I've seen it at least about 200 times or so. So I'm just like, what are you going to do that's been different from all those other times, Randy and John? What are y'all going to do? Y'all have literally attacked every single angle that has been possible. What else can you do?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But to me, I think if it's like a retirement match, I think the story that they have built throughout their career can, it only makes sense that it will come down to them two, if that's what they chose to do, because you know, I just think the story in itself, and that's one thing I feel like the WWE's been lacking, is just great storytelling. Outside of Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, and Seth Rollins and Murphy, I think they've been telling a good story. But outside of them, I feel like the storylines has kind of been lacking. But with this, I feel like that would just be a culmination of just from like, because they both went to the same developmental together, Randy Orton and John Cena, and then obviously how many times they have faced each other throughout their time in the WWE, and then to be able to end it off with possibly trying to eclipse Ric Flair's record of 16 world championships. I think that would be like the best way that they both can go out in a sense.
Yeah.
But
little quick thing I want to throw in there.
Yeah.
Though. In that class of wrestlers, apparently Shelton Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Randy Orton were all in that same group.
And Batista.
Oh.
Yeah, Batista too.
I wanted to say Batista, but I wasn't too too aware. But all right.
Yeah, Batista too. So that class is like one of the best wrestling classes in history. Cause like, dang, John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, Brock Lesnar. That's like people that still kind of run the WWE right now. When Brock Lesnar chooses to come back, Batista's now retired, but he was at the top of the company. Obviously, John Cena was the man, and Randy Orton is, you know, Randy Orton. Like, so, and then Shelton Benjamin, he definitely deserves more opportunities, but he's starting to get some opportunities with the Hurt Business. So, but yeah, that was definitely a great class. But let us move on to WWE Payback. And we're gonna start off with the first match. The first match was the United States Championship match between Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews.
All I gotta say is, Bobby Lashley is built differently than everybody else, and that dude keeps himself in immaculate shape. Because I really think all he would have to do is cut weight, and he can go back into like, UFC mode if he ever wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
All I gotta say though is I was impressed because Bobby Lashley to me is the kind of guy that the more I learn about him, like, this dude cannot fail at anything he wants to do. Like, he's just very successful in it. He left the WWE when he was disgruntled, and then went to go be a UFC fighter, and then done really well at that. And then he went to TNA, done really well at that. Then comes back to WWE. He's being underutilized because I could tell he knows what he's doing in the ring, and on top of that, he is very energetic. He's very, very mobile, and I'm like, a missed opportunity would have been Kurt Angle versus Bobby Lashley. But speaking of the match itself, though, Bobby was booked very strong, and his opponent, Apollo Crews, you get to see what Apollo Crews is really capable of doing, because he can switch styles up and be a very broad wrestler, or he can be a very, high flyer kind of wrestler that that, similar to like Rey Mysterio and them. I'm very surprised because Apollo Crews to me is like the WWE equivalent of, a DK Metcalf, aka this guy was built in wrestling creator mode, like generic default number 5. You know what I'm saying? It's like crazy because a dude that big shouldn't be able to move like that, but he just does. That's just crazy. And but I think the biggest thing that I could take away from him that he is the default. The dude has nothing to him that's like interesting character wise. He has all the right tangibles to be like a great star because he can. Yes, he's very mobile. He can flip. He can do a lot of things that you see a cruiserweight can do, and it's like he can switch it all seamlessly. So I'm like in my mind thinking, what is stopping this dude from being bigger than what he is? How is it that I can come back to wrestling 3 years later and he's barely in a better position? That's like crazy to me. So I think what they should do is fix his character.
Yeah.
And this should be the moment where they fix his character because it should go uphill, not downhill from here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I took away from the match. Obviously, the match, it was a solid match. Bobby Lashley, to me, deserves to be United States champion. Bobby Lashley has definitely been underrated since his time coming back because, to me, he should have been the WWE champion. I thought he should have beat Drew McIntyre when they had their situation, and he never even got a rematch for that. But that's a whole nother story. But that's the main thing I took away from this. Apollo Crews is a great in-ring wrestler. He's just lacking a character. Like when I watch him, I'm like, I don't know what his character is. It's so plain. And I'm like, he has to work on his character, or the creative team, they all have to work on his character because I feel like that's what's making us kind of bored of him, or just that's what's hurting him from getting to the next level, is that his character doesn't really have any substance. And then the interesting part to me is that he attacked Bobby Lashley after the match, even though Apollo Crews to me is supposed to be the babyface, and I'm just confused by it in a sense. And then it's not like the Hurt Business cheated really to have Bobby Lashley win the match. It's just more so Bobby Lashley just won, and it was just weird to me. I'm like, I don't get what Apollo Crews' character's supposed to be. He needs more substance. He's a great in-ring wrestler, but like you said, he has to develop his character, and they have to do something. He has to, because his character doesn't stand out. It doesn't stand out. So it just makes me watch him and be like, what is going on really? Like, I don't get it. Like, so it's hard for me to get behind him even when he's champion. Yeah, so that's how I feel about Apollo Crews. He's definitely a good in-ring wrestler, but his character needs some work, a lot of work. But let us move on to the Sheamus versus Big E match. And this is actually interesting to me. After literally the next match, after the Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley match, then going on to see Big E, I'm like, Big E has character. He has his character developed. Now, of course, he's doing his singles run, but now his character, but when you're looking at Big E and you're looking at Apollo Crews, I'm like, Big E has a character with substance. I'm like, Apollo Crews needs to do something that, brings out himself within his character, or just makes his character stand out. But tell me what your thoughts on the Sheamus versus Big E match.
All I can say is, hey man, Sheamus, I think your time is up in the WWE, man. I think you got to go do something with body sculpting or be an actor, because I think you're wasting your time in WWE right now. Because you look way too good to be doing what you're doing right now, man. It's just kind of a shame. Like, maybe you should be the new Tybo guy, teaching people how to exercise at home. But to keep it on track though with the match, I will say it was kind of a weird match because it was a lot of just a repeat, and I understand they're trying to let everybody think that Big E is gonna get folded by this submission. I like the submission, but I'm just like in my mind thinking to myself, how many times is this dude gonna get hit by this? Because we all know that Big E is like a glass cannon. When you get injured easy, he'll accidentally fall over his own couch and get injured easy. So I'm just like thinking in my mind, who are you trying to fool with Big E trying to be Iron Man over here? It's just not happening. And but if we just like want to keep it on track though, I like the match though, but it's just like I think Big E needs more opponents to bring out the best of Big E. You know what I'm saying? Because this match to me was like the worst match on the card, and I didn't feel like Big E was getting the best out of him. You know what I'm saying? Did you feel that way at all, or did you just feel like?
To me, to me, I thought it was a pretty solid, hard hitting match. Because to me, obviously they're building up Big E, which I think he deserves. I didn't think the match was bad. Because to me, I thought like Sheamus, I think Sheamus is actually a good wrestler. But I don't know where they go with Sheamus in a sense. Because to me, like at this point, he's just kind of like losing, or like he's kind of losing his match. Like he beat Jeff Hardy when they were in a rivalry, but then ultimately Jeff Hardy won like their last match that ended the rivalry, and then he goes into this with Big E, and he's helping put Big E over. And so I don't know where Sheamus goes from here, but I think Sheamus is a good wrestler. And I thought it was a pretty good match. Always liked when Big E does the spear like outside of the ring when his opponent is on the apron or whatnot, and then he like spares them to outside the ring. But but I mean, I didn't really think it was a bad match. I just don't know where you go from here with Sheamus. They both are already two underrated wrestlers, and then Sheamus just seems like he's kind of reached his point where like what's next? Like he's not even in the tag team no more. It's no more the Bar with him and Cesaro, where they were dominating the tag team division. It's like now he's a singles competitor, and he's kind of just like there now. But I think he's a good wrestler. I just don't know what you do with him now.
Yeah, because I feel like he peaked too early. Because he got the belt kind of like out the gate, and then after that it was just like downhill from there. And things just hadn't gotten better for him because injuries kind of sidetracked him, and then on top of that, they kept putting him in awkward groups like the nation of, like no, it was like the league of like intercontinental, like what was it?
Yeah,
what was called,
it was like I don't remember the name, but it was called, I think it was the League of Nations or something like that. It was with Rusev, him, Cesaro. Yeah,
and Shinsuke Nakamura for whatever reason. Oh God, I remember that. I'm just like, man, it just keeps going down. I feel like he's kind of just serving that role to help build up people. You know what I'm saying? But if I was in control, he'd be the Intercontinental Champion, and it'd be the hardest thing to do to get that belt away from him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's just me, though.
Yeah, I definitely think Sheamus is a good wrestler, but I'm just like, I don't know what you do with him at this point. And that's what I feel about a lot of wrestlers in the WWE right now. That's probably one of the problems. That's probably one of the things I got to add to my list when we're talking about two things the WWE needs to change a little later, is that a lot of wrestlers, I don't really know what you do with them. They're kind of just putting people together in tag teams when they don't know what to do with them. And it's just like, kind of like what they did with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. They just kind of put them in a tag team to give them like the belts. It just seems like that's what's happening a lot with the WWE. They don't know what to do with a lot of people outside of the main attractions like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. But it's like outside of them, it's kind of like they don't really know what to do with a lot of wrestlers right now. But let us move on to Matt Riddle versus King Corbin. And I got an interesting question for you. Do you think King Corbin will ever become WWE champion or Universal champion?
No, but I see him being the greatest roadblock to get to it. And the way I see how they use Corbin, it's just like they book him to be strong, but he always loses. So I'm just like always curious about that. And that's something I would love to ask like WWE developmental if I ever get a chance to be like, or the writers, excuse me, which is just like, what is your plans with this guy? Because it seems like you put him in an endless loop. He's like one of the two guys who actually failed in getting the Money in the Bank and losing it. Like, I am so confused what you want to do with this dude.
That was wrong too. They did him wrong.
Like, I look at King Corbin, I'm like, there's nothing kingly about this man other than his entrance. It's like we put all the effort into his entrance and none of it into his like what's it called? His storylines. It's like it's always terrible for this fan.
Exactly.
I mean, I think the only notable win I can ever remember him getting was over Kurt Angle. I'm like, come on now. That's not how it should have went down.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Like the one notable win he has, I'm like, that's the one he shouldn't have gotten. That's the one he shouldn't have gotten. And I like, what's interesting to me when I just think about the match itself, I thought it was actually a really good match. I like Matt Riddle. We both like Matt Riddle. And this is my first time really paying attention to Matt Riddle's entrance song. And it was like, he kind of has like this West Coast vibe. And I'm like, is he from Cali or something like that? His entrance song.
Yeah, I believe he's from LA, if I'm not mistaken.
That would make sense because his entrance song has a West Coast vibe to it. And I was like, this is pretty cool. But sticking to King Corbin, I feel like King Corbin, this may be interesting to people, but I actually think King Corbin's good. I think he's a good in-ring wrestler. I think he actually has charisma. He can make you hate him. This is what I feel about King Corbin, though. I think he needs to start being treated more like a JBL type character. He needs henchmen. He needs someone that helps him win matches, because he needs to start his own group, kind of like how JBL had the Cabinet, I think, or something like that, where he had the Basham brothers and Orlando, what was his name? Orlando Brown, I believe, or something like that. I can't remember. But
Orlando Jordan.
Yeah, Orlando Jordan. Orlando Brown from Disney Channel or something like that. I don't know. But King Corbin needs like his own group, and he needs his henchmen. They need to give him a character that makes him seem more serious. The King Corbin type vibe, like he won the King of the Ring so long ago. Why is that still his character? And it just comes out as like, I can't take him serious. Like, cause he's like saying he's a king, but he loses every match. And I'm just like, y'all need to make him seem more serious, cause he can wrestle and he actually can talk on the mic. And I'm like, y'all not using him to the best ability that y'all can with King Corbin. I think he's super underrated to me.
I feel you on that one. I agree. Because like it's weird, because I think we both kind of predicted this, and I think we both kind of said, yeah, Matt Riddle's going to be the guy to beat King Corbin, and lo and behold, what happens? King Corbin loses to Matt Riddle.
Exactly.
And it's just like. It's like it's the second coming of Dolph Ziggler. So I'm just like, you guys got to do something about this and fix it quickly. Or if in the rare case that he's content with this kind of situation, I'm like, all right, fine, you do your job well, because at least in ring, he is built up to be a threat, but somehow always finds a way to lose, which is just like, wow.
That's why I said they need to give him some henchmen. They need to give him some like henchmen that helps him pull out these wins.
Shoot. This would have been a perfect time to use EC3, but oh boy, that boy's back in TNA.
Yep. They couldn't find what to do with him. That's one of the problems with the WWE. They don't know what to do with a lot of the wrestlers. That's the writers or creative or whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm listening to Jim Cornette, I'm listening to Jim Ross. It seems like the way it goes down is like this. Even when Paul Heyman, when he was on Stone Cold's podcast, they were all explaining it like this. They all get together to go write Monday Night Raw, and they get together to write SmackDown. And the way it goes is Vince is there in the room with all the writers, and they're trying to get everything done in a certain way. And they're there with Bruce Pritchard and other characters like that. And so far, from what I noticed, Vince does give the final okay, but it seems like if he's focused on the bigger picture, while little things will slip through the cracks, or if not, he's completely like oblivious to it, and it'll be like a really bad situation. So I'm just imagining like, yo, Vince, who do you have yourself surrounded by? Because you got people who know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not like a big secret. And it's not like there's like a hard recipe to make this all work, because I'm seeing it happen in NXT. Triple H has surrounded himself with former wrestlers and guys he knows that can get the job done and give up at least quality storylines. I'm like wondering, how is this so hard for you to get this right? And it's just like, maybe this is the time for the cerebral assassin to make another action and
move up,
become the head. Yeah, maybe it's that time, because I'm like, I never thought I'd say this, but maybe this is time for Vince to step down. But I kind of understand the character of Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon, from everybody I've ever talked to, he's a nut. He's a nut job. But you got to be that way if you want to be vastly successful as he was. So I think the way things have to turn out is like, something has to happen with Vince, or if not a drastic change. But we're now getting into another topic. We're here to talk about King Corbin and Matt Riddle, and all I can say is, hey man, the future looks bright for Matt Riddle, because I believe he is a star in the making, and so far they hadn't done him wrong yet.
Yeah, and I feel that same way about Matt Riddle, but I agree with everything you're saying. I don't know, but obviously I haven't met Vince McMahon, so I can't really speak on how Vince McMahon is, but it just seems like the creative is just kind of lacking when, at least for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. And then it's not lacking for everybody, but it's lacking for a lot of the superstars. But let us move on to Sasha Banks and Bayley going against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. So the Golden Role Models versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. To me, that was just pure domination. Yeah, there's nothing really else I can say about that. I feel indifferent about it, though. I'm happy for Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, because once again, I guess this is the theme for this show. We're talking about not really knowing what to do with wrestlers and their characters. It just seems like that with the WWE, like Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler is like, they're great talents, but it's like we don't know what to really do with them, but we know we need to give them a championship. So we're like, let's just put the women tag team championships on both of them, and then let's figure out what else that comes from that. And they're both dominant, so they will dominate. So I'm happy for them, because I believe they deserve that. But when we talking about Sasha Banks and her just losing all the belts like within 2 weeks, man, it's just like, what? Y'all make me not even care about this Sasha Banks and Bayley storyline anymore. Obviously, we all know it's leading towards them facing each other for, I believe, the SmackDown Women's Championship, because Bayley is still the champion. But it's like, do we really care now? Do I even care anymore? Like, I don't. I'm sorry. But tell me what your thoughts about this.
Man, how many times are we going to make Sasha look weak? I am kind of tired of this. Because I'm like, at this point, it's almost getting way too predictable about this, man. I think they already got how they want to set up Sasha, and I think this is just like how it is. Because I'm like, if Sasha beats Bayley, it just makes Bayley look bad. Because right now, Sasha looks like the weakest female wrestler in the entire roster right now. And this match kind of proved it. How is it that you're there to break up a submission and you couldn't successfully do that, when I've seen this scenario happen at least about a million times over?
Shayna Baszler put her arm around Bayley's neck, so basically she dang near choked out Bayley as well as getting tapped out herself. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I'm just saying. And then on top of that, well, the prior week before that, she loses to like Asuka after she was in a match with Bayley. So I'm just all like, come on, man. Ooh, are we trying to make people look bad here? Because this is now making Sasha look like the worst.
Man.
When we know we've gotten the best out of her.
Man.
I don't know, man. Hey, man, you're the Sasha Banks fan. You tell me, how did we fix this?
At this point, I don't even know. Because then Sasha Banks just came back from reinventing her character. She changed her hair color and all that type of stuff. But it's like, she almost needs to reinvent her character again. Because it's like, they just keep having her take losses, and then she gets to the top of the mountain, becomes women's champion, and then it lasts for like a week or two. Then it's like, what are y'all doing? Like, what are y'all doing? Like, it's like she don't ever get to showcase that she's dominant, and that's what she needs to showcase how great she really is. Because to me, I think she possibly could be the best women's wrestler in the entire division. Of course, like Charlotte's got to make a claim for that, and when Becky Lynch comes back, she makes a claim for that. But to me, when I'm just looking at talent, I'm like, Sasha Banks could be the best, but I'm like, y'all just not her storyline and they just never really treat her the best to me, and it kind of showcases. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know what they do. Maybe she just beats Bayley and then goes on a huge long title run. Maybe that's the way to fix it, but I don't know. As right now at this point, I don't trust the WWE when it comes to doing the right thing by Sasha, so I don't really even know no more. I didn't lost hope.
Good enough to leave it on.
I done lost hope.
Don't tell me you lost hope.
I done lost hope. But let us move on to Keith Lee versus Randy Orton. Man,
I got something to say about it, but it's like
ahead.
this. I am very surprised Keith Lee came out the victor in this match. But I guess they were trying to show off that, hey, man, both these guys are going to put everything on the table. And honestly, I thought Randy was going to walk out the winner, but nah. I guess he's trying to put over Keith Lee, and I guess they want to make Keith Lee the next big thing. Mm-hmm. And, well, I got to say, I like Keith Lee. He's just another dude. Just like, we threw to create a wrestler. We gave him a bunch of movesets that are just interesting. And honestly, I'm rooting for Keith Lee. And on top of that, another cool, little side thing, I want to point out. In Keith Lee's intro, he actually dressed up as Broly. He was wearing Saiyan armor, too.
Oh.
Yeah, a little side. Little side thing to throw it out there.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, Keith Lee, though, is big. He's intimidating on top of that. He isn't shaped like your typical, big man wrestler, but hey. I like this, though. I like this. It's kind of like an oddball type wrestler, kind of looking guy, kind of like Kevin Owens in a way. Because Kevin Owens is like, if you don't look at him twice, you won't think he's as athletic as he looks. But nah, that's just the truth. And what I gotta say is, I'm surprised that Randy did take the loss here, because I was really thinking this is it. Mm-hmm. Keith was getting thrown through tables. He was over there getting hit with all types of crazy maneuvers. I was just like, man, is this how Keith Lee starts out his little career on Raw? Getting folded by Randy Orton? But nah, he pulls out one of the more interesting power bombs I've seen, because I don't know if you noticed, but Randy bounced like he had ragdoll physics when he got hit by it. I'm like, wait, how did you come up that high? Like, bounced up and then
he's selling
and got
selling for Keith Lee, putting Keith Lee over. He's doing his job.
Shoot, man, I never thought I'd think in a million years I hear those words, Randy Orton selling. But it is what it is. At least you know how great it has to be, though, because the Rock's oversold.
Oh, The Rock.
Stone Cold
my
sold.
God, we got to do some reactions to that. Those stunners, the Rock will sell. Those are classic, man.
Oh man,
I seen The Rock bounce back up from the stunner and then get stunned again, and it was just like, this guy is great.
The Rock will do like a whole backflip, front flip, just to let you know how powerful the stunner was. Exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh man. For me, man, I like the match. I thought it was a good match, but yeah, to me, it did come to an abrupt ending. It seemed like Randy wasn't supposed to lose. If I'm being honest, but I'm glad that he did put Keith Lee over, because that is his debut match on the main roster. But it did seem like Randy was not supposed to lose. But it was a good, smooth match, and I really ain't got too much to say about it. It was a good match, and then it's just Keith Lee hit him with the power bomb, and I was like, dang, Randy just lose like that? I was like, okay. I was like, he's just putting him over. He's putting on Keith Lee. And I was like, Keith Lee deserves it though. So, but they got to start giving Randy some wins again, because you can't just have him lose twice in a row like this after we didn't build him up to be like back to legend killer again. And he can't keep taking losses though. So he's going to have to get a win eventually. And hopefully, well, I don't know, maybe he gets a win over Drew McIntyre, becomes WWE champion, and then Edge comes back, and then we get Edge versus Randy Orton for the WWE championship. I think that's what's going to happen. That's just an early prediction for me. But let us move on to the Mysterios, Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio versus Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. And to me, honestly, this is great storytelling. And to me, this was probably the match. I didn't get to see Roman Reigns and The Fiend and Braun Strowman, but outside of that match, because I can't judge that one, this was the best match to me, because it's just best match of the night, because just the storytelling, it seemed like they actually have fun wrestling each other. And it looks like they love the story that they're telling. And I'm impressed with Dominic Mysterio. I heard Rey Mysterio tore his triceps though, so I'm like, dang. Just right when we're getting this father-son tag team, and they get the win, it's like, dang. Rey Mysterio's probably gonna be out for a little while, so.
I mean, hey man, it's the perfect time to call up Chavo Guerrero and see what he's up to. Oh, just saying.
That would be interesting, yeah. That'd definitely be interesting.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't see this match, so this is all you right now.
Oh, it's all me. So yeah, great storytelling. Seth Rollins, obviously one of the best in the business. Buddy Murphy's doing his thing with Seth. The Mysterios, though, it's just great storytelling. This is the best story to me being told right now in the WWE. But outside of that, let us move on to the match that you can only talk about, because I haven't seen the Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, The Fiend. I'm just pass it on to you. Let us know what your thoughts on that.
This was a grudge match through and through, because I liked how this match was set up, because the moment Bray Wyatt got in that ring, it was a wrap. Braun Strowman was on his head, and it just kept, and they were making sure that they wanted everybody to know what kind of match this was. It was a no DQ kind of match, and they were bringing everything they had onto the table. And I'll have to give them this. They actually made me believe that these two do not like each other at all. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminded me a bit of back in the day when we get to see like John Cena versus Edge. Because it felt like they're trying to emulate, it kind of goes there with these dudes. But nah, it looks like these two were out for each other's blood, because they were beating each other all the way up and down the ramp, breaking all the tables. If you watch in the match, Michael Cole almost fell trying to get over the barricade. Oh man, but honestly though, these dudes were going at it. They even tried to pull a spot where they destroyed the ring. It's like, this is probably my only one criticism though, because I know Bray Wyatt's not strong enough to lift all of Braun Strowman like that off the top turnbuckle and do it. But hey man, it is what it is. Because it was a cool spot, and it was cool for the setup for Roman Reigns to come in and go collect that belt. But I will say this though, it's very questionable, because Roman Reigns kind of comes in, signs the documents just so he can be in the match and get that belt from Paul Heyman, and he slams and like bends the chair on Braun Strowman. I'm like thinking in my mind, I'm like, Braun Strowman has been taking a beating, and The Fiend has been taking a beating, and you're telling me he can't just come in and close the match with the chair? Nah, he has to set up the spear. I'm like, all right, I guess. I mean, at this point, Braun Strowman shouldn't be beaten by anybody at that point then. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I do like, though, is they didn't make The Fiend be the one to get pinned. Because I'm tired of The Fiend taking losses he should not be taking. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if we're going forward with the storyline of Roman being the heel, I'm looking forward to it. But let Braun Strowman and The Fiend finish up what they're doing, and then put Fiend back in the title picture, because I feel like The Fiend so far has been one of the more interesting characters in the WWE in a very long time. I feel like this dude could have worked out 10, 20 years ago, if maybe. So yeah, and
Oh wait, one
I
second
don't.
before you continue on, we're gonna have to take a quick break. And once we come back from the break, we'll finish our thoughts on Roman Reigns teaming up with Paul Heyman and who is the most underrated wrestler in the WWE and 2 things the WWE needs to change. So let's take a quick break.
All right.
But we back from the break, and you were finishing what you were saying about Roman Reigns' heel turn and basically how he came into the match and ended the match off, became Universal Champion, all those things.
I find that kind of awkward how he becomes the Paul Heyman guy, but then I'm like, you know what? It makes sense because Roman's never been the greatest talker. It'd be perfect for him to be a Paul Heyman guy. But then I'm just like in my mind, how convenient he's a Paul Heyman guy and Brock Lesnar's contract is up. Are we gonna see Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in the near future? Again?
Or even greater. You know what would be even greater than that? Brock Lesnar and him team up as Paul Heyman guys and just dominate and be the most like people that we become to hate. They do whatever they want. And the thing is, Roman Reigns hasn't been one of the best, the best talkers, like you said. But to me, I don't think it's been his fault. I think it's been creative and him making them say all these corny stuff. Like I remember even Dean Ambrose or John Moxley, if you watch AEW, saying that they gave him a lot of corny stuff to say, basically even for him, and he had to just try to make the best out of it.
Hey man, the 2 things that stick out was suffering succotash and I'm not a bad guy, I'm not a good guy, I am the guy. Like Jesus Christ, who came up with these lines?
So I think Roman being heel, and then not only that, when you're a heel, I feel like you can say and be more of what you want to be in a sense. You can say whatever you want to say. You don't have to say stuff to try to be liked or be loved by the fans. You could do whatever you want. And I think teaming up with Paul Heyman is going to bring even the best out of Roman. And that's one thing I got to say. If we've been going against everything WWE has been doing in terms of creative and writing and their writers, this is one of the good things I'm actually going to say. Y'all actually listened. Y'all finally turned Roman Reigns heel. After all these years, we've been saying it. After all these years, the fans been complaining. Y'all finally listened. And I got to say, y'all went above that too. Y'all teamed him up with Paul Heyman, which I didn't ever expect or ever would have thought of. That is actually good stuff, WWE. That's good stuff because I think Paul Heyman's a great talker. Teaming up with Roman, and if Roman's not one of the best talkers, it's going to make him be even better. So this is actually something I really like. Roman Reigns being heel and teaming with Paul Heyman. And if Brock Lesnar and him teamed up, give me some credit because I said it first on this podcast.
Careful now. They be listening to conversations. They probably steal this one directly from us.
Brock and Roman teaming together and just dominating the business. They'll have to dominate SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. Just go anywhere they want and just dominate. It'll be crazy.
I can envision them holding all of the belts. I can see that because I saw Kurt Angle do it in TNA. So I wouldn't be surprised they did in the WWE.
And then Paul Heyman's just speaking for both of them and everybody's just hating on them. That would be amazing. That would be amazing TV to me. That would be amazing. Who is the most underrated wrestler in the WWE to you?
There's a list of guys because you know Cedric Alexander, there's Ricochet, there's Cesaro, there's Shinsuke Nakamura. The list goes on, but I feel like an underutilized talent is probably Cedric Alexander, probably one of the more underrated guys because he's one of those guys. He can do anything. That's the biggest thing I learned when I was watching him on the Cruiserweight Classics. And I feel like he's like a total waste because all I do is see him show up and lose and not get the respect he deserves. And I feel like, he should be one of those guys competing for the Intercontinental or one of those guys that's constantly like, man, this dude might be the dude to get the United States and then build him up properly, but it's just not happening. I feel kind of bad because sometimes I don't even see him week in and week out. And I'm just like, he's the background dude. I'm like, come on, man.
Exactly.
You didn't bring him up from Cruiserweight Classic to do this. How is it the guy he beat, Buddy Murphy, is getting more love and attention than him? And I'm just like, come on, man. I think what they should do with Cedric is give him a chance, or if not, put him in the Hurt Business. At least you'll have him doing something which is better than nothing, and go from there. I think that's my take. I wish I could throw a female wrestler in there, but a lot of the women's wrestlers get used way better and way more utilized, way more properly than the men. It's just kind of a sad thing, but it's the truth. And
that is
if I were to throw,
truth,
if I were to throw out one more wrestler, it'd be Shinsuke, because I feel like Shinsuke never got the fair shake, especially after the AJ Styles run. I feel like Shinsuke should have won the belt because Shinsuke was white hot, and on top of that, he was putting on great matches. I'm just like, why is it that he didn't win the belt? Why is it that he just fizzled out? This is like a wasted opportunity. This is terrible. Yeah. And then I'm glad to see him now with the tag team belts. I personally will put him in the main titles. I mean, in the top card again. Yeah. That's just me. Who do you say is the most underrated though, man?
So here's my list. All those people you named is definitely on my list. Nakamura, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn's really underrated. He could be almost my number one, but I'm gonna put Sami Zayn as my number two. Some other people that's just on my list as well. Kevin Owens. But I can't have Kevin Owens be the number one most underrated wrestler because at least he's gotten a championship run. Big E is another one that's underrated. Sheamus is underrated. We always talk about Cesaro's greatness, but at least I can say Cesaro's been tag team champion multiple times. So that's one good thing about Cesaro. However, this wrestler in particular, my number one is Ricochet. What have they done to Ricochet, man? I had so much high hopes.
Ever since he got chewed up by Brock Lesnar, it was a wrap. We never heard from Ricochet again. I'm joking.
Exactly. I had high hopes for Ricochet when he left NXT to join the main roster. It's like, what are they doing? What are they doing with him? I understand he's not probably the best talker on the mic, but he is one of the best in-ring wrestlers for sure. And of course, just give him more opportunities so he can get more experience with developing his character, just like Apollo Crews. But Ricochet deserves a lot more love. Like, he was great on NXT. He was even better on the mic on NXT. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on with what they're doing with him on the main roster. He is the most underrated wrestler in the WWE to me today. Ricochet.
Ricochet.
Yes.
That's a pretty good pick because after his I want to say his United States run and after the Brock Lesnar thing, it just nothing has gone his way in the right way, and I just feel kind of bad for him though because to me that is your next Rey Mysterio, that is your superhero, and you're just squandering him, man. You know, It's terrible, but hey, man, we just have to wait and see because hopefully they got a plan for everything. If they don't, this is terrible.
And then we're going to move on to the last topic. 2 things the WWE needs to change today. And you know what? I'm going to start it off. This is one in particular. The WWE is too PG still. Like, of course, they're trying to change up things with Retribution and the Raw Underground and everything like that, but it's still PG. The rivalries, the storylines seem like they can't be as great as they used to be because everything is still too like professional in a sense. Too like it doesn't have any. I just need some more oomph to it. It needs more oomph to it. Like back in the day when you were able to bleed, when you were able to just go above and beyond and it wasn't PG, it just made everything more realistic and made me believe in it a lot more and get behind all the storylines. Outside of Dominic Mysterio and Seth Rollins and that whole rivalry, it's like every rivalry is kind of whack right now. And it's like, that's one thing. And then the main thing we've been harping on since the beginning of this particular podcast show is they don't seem like they know what they're doing with a bunch of wrestlers. So that's another thing they need to change. They need to get better. They need to get better with their creativeness in terms of building up characters. That's 2 things. How PG it is in the WWE and their lack of creativity and developing characters on the main roster at least. So that's my two things. Yes.
I agree with you because I would really love to just like I would really love to tear the walls down and just give everybody a fair chance because this is starting to get like irritating just seeing how I can literally count like a bunch of guys just back to back just not getting their dues, and I'm just wondering like why are you even in the WWE right now? Mm-hmm. I wonder about what these guys who are just showing up who are just there and not getting their fair shake. I'm like, come on now. I feel like the only wrestler that's getting like their proper build up in their time that's in the sunlight is like guys like Aleister Black and still guys like Seth Rollins, and I'm just like, man, when are they gonna make it a point to make these guys valued? Because I feel like we got a bunch of wrestlers who are great and could be at the top and not do anything right. So the first thing I would do is I would probably usurp, or if not, just get rid of Vince McMahon, because at the end of the day, he's the guy that's greenlighting everything. Or at least, make him step down or like switch his position, because it's starting to get to the point to where I'm starting to realize it's kind of getting irritating how a lot of wrestlers that were better and far beyond better than what they're given, and it's kind of just being like noticeable for everybody up the top to bottom. I feel like everybody should get the same love and attention like how Rey Mysterio was getting with Dominic and Seth Rollins. It's just like that same love and attention is not there for Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley. It's not there, obviously, with what's it called, with the Street Profits. It's not there with a lot of these guys. I just wish they would change that. Mm-hmm. And that'd be, for me personally, that would be the thing I do. I would try to give everybody the same love and attention that Edge and Randy Orton got. What's crazy is I think about it, back in the day, it used to be like that. A lot of subplots were going on that were actually entertaining to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that'd be the first thing I change. I change the tippity top people who either write these guys' storylines, or if not the guy who is in charge. I'd change that. The second thing I'd change the belts. That'd be the second thing I'd change. That'd be the second thing. I hate the WWE. At first, I used to really like the WWE Universal Championship belt, but once I realized there's no personality to it, and for the brands, it's just like a different color. Two colors are what's separating them. I'd say, yo, man, it's time to switch that up.
Yes.
Bring back the World Heavyweight Championship belt, or go make another belt, because y'all are obviously knowing what y'all doing. Because the United States and Intercontinental look totally different from what they were, but they still look good. Mm-hmm. So I'd change that as well. Those would be like the two things I'd change about the WWE, man.
Oh, those are really good. Like you said, they do need to separate how the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship look. Like, they shouldn't look the same, or just one is just a different color. Like, the belt strap is just a different color. Like, come on now. Like, can we get more creative with this? And but yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like like I said, the characters, they need to develop the characters more. And like you said, back in the day, there was a lot more subplots. We didn't just care about the main rivalries or the rivalries surrounded by the main championships. We cared about a lot of other things. So it's like, they need to do that. They do it a little bit with the Hurt Business. They do it with, I guess, Dominic Mysterio, the Mysterios, and this whole rivalry with Seth Rollins and Murphy. But outside of that, it's a lot of great wrestlers that are being kind of not used right, or underused or underutilized. So it's like, yeah, they definitely need to work on that. But yeah, that is the two things that we both would change. And you mentioned about having Vince step down. I don't know if Vince will ever. I mean, I don't know who can really do that. He's the owner. He is WWE. So you can't really make Vince step down, but he can only relinquish his authority, or give other people more responsibility. Yeah. But I don't even know how much is Vince's fault though. Still, I mean, obviously we all go to Vince because he is the guy, but I'm like, maybe actually at the same time, he's the one that hires the writers and all that type of stuff, so he can make a change for that. But yeah.
So one thing I do know about Vince, or just like you understand how the writing process goes, Vince is very, very, very. He's very attentive to like the big things that are happening, and like a lot of the small stuff kind of slips and seeks through the cracks. Excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people just don't pay attention or understand that. And a great example would be a great example would be like, guys having to come up with their own concepts and then them having to make it fly or make it work for them. And then that kind of makes sense because, people like John Cena had to create their own character and make it work. Then Vince McMahon would step in and, be like, all right, well, you're going to do this, that, and the third. And this is how I got you set up. And they're like, all right, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And other times, though, guys have to make it. It's totally unscripted, and no one's telling this guy what to say or do. And this is obviously what they're doing. And like, granted, that would be CM Punk.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you another example. Like, there's obviously we don't know what to do with these three wrestlers, but the wrestlers have to come up with it themselves and make something happen out of nothing, which was the New Day, which was Xavier Woods' idea, and he put it on himself to make it work, and he knocked it out the park, I would say.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know whether it's creative that feels like, man, because it wasn't our idea, we don't want to run it, or man, it's hard to give a guy a chance because the fans aren't latching onto him. Yeah. But they got to figure it out because I feel like especially with guys like Apollo Crews, Cedric Alexander, and then especially with the current title run of Drew McIntyre, I'm like, bro, this is like one of the boringest title runs I've ever seen. I could have made this way better. All I need is a GM mode and a SmackDown 2K20, and this would have worked smoothly.
Man,
but this is not cutting it. That's just, oh man, it's just, I don't know what they're doing.
They could do a lot. They could do a lot better. They definitely could do a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have hit every topic for this week's episode, and before we close the show, we always gotta leave a few words for the people. So, you got any few words for the people?
All I would like to say is, hey, I know election times are coming up, but I want y'all to do an important thing, which is to research and see how things are run in your state, in your towns, and seeing how things can be changed in your local areas to make a bigger impact in the greater scheme of things. I understand that voting for a new president may be things that can change things, but you got to learn to understand that every state is kind of governed like its own country, and things may happen at the top to change everything at the bottom, but those take time, and you can make a more of an immediate impact if you talk to the people in your local areas. And after that, I gotta say, hey, keep staying positive and try to help one another and keep being understanding of one another. I think that's the most important thing at these times, is to at least understand each other and being positive about the situation.
And I couldn't agree anymore. Make sure y'all vote. Election season is coming up, but not only just vote for a president, vote for our own situation in terms of like our own state and everything like that. Actually participate in research, come to learn more about these different types of things, like John said. Because at the end of the day, that's how we can only really see change, and that's the real way how action and things like that's going to take place. We need policy changes, we need law changes, and of course, when it comes to police, we need changes for that too. It's too easy for police officers to become officers. I believe it's within 3 months or 6 months, and that's just a whole nother story. It took me 4 years to get my bachelor's degree. It takes 3 months 3 to 6 months for a police officer to become a police officer, where he's looking after people and has the chance to possibly take people's lives or defend people. That's a lot of pressure and to put on an officer. He's only within training for 3 months or 6 months. So it's a lot of mistakes, but we got to make sure we vote. We got to do all those things. But this is the Voiceless podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We'll never be silent and all those good things. And we'll see you guys in the next podcast. We out.